Hey, what's going on, crypto people? It is your boy, the Crypto Siege, with another day in the life and the crazy life that is cryptocurrency. What's up, guys? Hope the volume is all the way up. You can hear me. I wanted to talk real quick about the 10,000 XRP was designed for $10,000 video that was done by SPQR Media, and they actually were able to get a hold of the guy who actually wrote that article. I believe his name is Mark Phillips. It's an interesting thing too. I don't know, a month and a half, maybe 2 months ago, I did a video on that article, and Mark actually did. He reached out. I think he commented it in the video, and acknowledged and appreciated the fact that I did a video on that article. In fact, that article, because I titled it differently, but that video was by far my biggest viewed, most commented. 99% of the comments were positive. Most viewed, most comments video that I've had. I mean, it was close to, I don't know, 5,000 or 6,000 views or something like that. It was really crazy, really crazy. But I kind of titled it "Why Not," and I referenced that article. But interesting to hear and watch that interview with Mark Phillips. Actually, this is the first time I think that the SPQR Media people actually were on camera where you could see them, and I think it was Lee. We communicated for a bit. Lee and I did the other day. Real sharp guy. The people there seem really cool, really cool. But in any case, that video, Mark brought out some other interesting things, and certainly a lot of it obviously is the way he sees things, and we may or may not, or you may or may not have heard some of these things from other people, depending upon how long you've been in the XRP community. I believe most of what he said has been echoed a lot by the To The Lifeboats and Sam I Am, CKJ Crypto News, Crypto News and Investigative Reports. Love for crypto without question. But he puts not a different light, but he comes from a different perspective. Mark Phillips does, which makes you think, right? It makes you think even more. And I think that what's important is the different perspectives, so that you can, of course, get a more well-rounded view. The more perspectives, the better the overall view that you can get on this. And so a lot of points he made were great. I love the idea of he didn't say the world reserve currency. He said a world reserve currency, because he doesn't think that the dollar is going to go away, and he also thinks it's going to be different digital assets, and the SCR, for example. And that's an interesting thing. I do believe that XRP will be the world's bridge currency, and I think it's set up exactly to do that. But serving as a world reserve currency is massive. And he made an interesting point. He said he thought that the reserve, whatever that is, 100 billion, whatever it is, he said that he thought that all of XRP, besides the people who like us who hold it, has already been accounted for. Now, he said it could easily already be accounted for. And he made some very interesting points as to why that is, or how that could be. And he said something about, just because XRP holds it in escrow doesn't mean that it's not already accounted for, that it's not already been quote unquote allocated to, sold to, or whatever. Very good point. For me, the fact that the people from Ripple are hanging out with the people from the IMF, to me that speaks volumes as to what's about to take place. Whether the IMF is going to have a certain amount in their coffers or not, I believe that to be the case. I believe that IMF and the World Bank are going to make it a quote-unquote a reserve currency. I believe that 100%. But I also believe that it will be an instrument to settle debt. XRP will be an instrument to settle world global debt. I believe that 110%, 1,000%. Because we own it, and we are the greatest debtor nation ever in the history of owning debt. We hold the largest amount of debt ever in history. So I think it will be used for that. And obviously it's going to be great to do it, but I also think that it's going to be something that other nations will be able to get a hold of as a world reserve currency. And this, the whole idea of, and I was thinking about this, what does interoperability really mean? Is it just you and I being able to connect and hang out and send money to each other? Like, what does that really mean? And what I think it really means, and they talk about, Donald Trump talks about a level playing field, and you'll hear Brad Garlinghouse talk about a new world order. And, obviously we hear this globalization and we think something different than what it really is. But I really do think, in my mind, I see it as an interdependent space in the next 10, 15 years. Interdependent, where we're dependent upon each other to succeed. Nations are depending upon each other to succeed. And I really, really do believe that. I believe, in 15, 20 years from now, we will be a world where we do not war against each other, because it would not be to our benefit. I believe that's where we're going. Not that there's not always going to be a bad guy. There's always going to be a bad guy. But I also believe a lot of times a bad guy is created because a nation feels as though the other nations don't value them as a nation. And so a bad guy, for example, Osama bin Laden, for example, perhaps that's how he became a bad guy. I don't know. I'm thinking perhaps, right? Perhaps the world powers didn't recognize, him and his people, that nation, as a nation of something that had something of value. And I think that's all going to change. I think that's all going to change, and it's going to be really, really interesting to see. Just imagine, a world where there was no need to war against each other. How cool would that be? And I think this whole idea of the ILP and interoperability and connecting nations to nations is gonna be a big part of that. I really, really, really do. I think there's a reason why Bill Gates feels as though he's going to be able to end world poverty, and that alone in itself is massive. And I know a lot of that has to do with the ILP, the intellectual protocol. And remember, Ripple is the company who created that and gifted it. I believe they gifted it to the W3C, and the Ripple company and XRP is a major factor in so many things, and the use cases are beyond. And quite honestly, I think that the use cases, whether it be Xspring, Codius, whether it be Xrp, any of those others, I think the major idea behind XRP, in my opinion, the major impetus to get that thing created was to settle, maybe not initially, but it became that instrument to settle the world debt. And I believe that it's either going to prevent this crisis, or it's going to, once the crisis does hit, because it's very, very close, it's going to stymie it, it's going to, help to stop it, or it's just never going to happen. I really do believe that, because if we can get the debt situation settled, we can do a lot of things. And the major issue behind getting the debt settled is obviously liquidity, or the lack thereof, and XRP solves that. So, on a great spot. One thing that he said that I thought was interesting, he believes, Mark Phillips says that he believes, 10 years from now is when this whole ecosystem behind XRP, the ILP, the XRP ledger, interoperability is going to be about 10 years. And I could see that. I would argue that the 10 years started in 2015. I would argue that, so that by 2025, everything could be in place, up and running, mature ecosystem around XRP and ILP. Now he's thinking 10 years from now, because I believe he said 2030 is what he said. But that doesn't mean that the price is going to take that long to get there, because remember, I think the overwhelming, the biggest challenge, the overall most important thing is the inevitable global economic crisis. And so if XRP is going to be something that's going to help with that, it can't be at $1, it can't be at $10, it can't be at $50. It's going to have to be something where the other debtor nations are saying, okay, this is the value, and agree that a future value will be there. In other words, it's $100, and we all agree that in 2 years from today, it'll be $1,000. So you hold something that's going to, you see what I'm saying? You hold something that we know is going to help to take care of the debt that we owe. Not only that, you hold something at, you got a hold of this at this price, and now it's going to be this price, that type of deal. Bargains for nations and governments and this type of deal. Understanding that it will be a world reserve currency. So they hold something. The people that we owe debt to hold something that is massively valuable. And another great point that he made is he said if you put it alongside the other currencies, or alongside the fiat dollar, and it's a world reserve currency and not the world reserve currency, then it doesn't deflate, it doesn't take value away from the other nation's currency. And I think that's hugely important. And most importantly, it doesn't take away the value of the dollar. Or perhaps maybe even it will even bring the value of the dollar back, because there will be no need for this printing of money. And so the fact that it won't take away the value of the other nation's fiat currency, if XRP just serves as a world reserve digital currency, that will be massive. That will be massive. And if the IMF is aware of this, and the World Bank is aware of this, and these other nations are aware of this and realize that their fiat currency will not lose its value, and you're going to be able to get rid of your debt and have us, quote unquote, this reset, that's massive. That's massive. And so if you're an XRP holder, wow. Right? So I don't think that there's gonna, you're gonna have to wait 10 years to cash out. I think because of the upcoming, because of the impending, because of the inevitable global economic crisis, there will have to be a valuation of XRP sooner rather than later, and it will have to be significant enough to for all the other debtor nations to say, cool, I'm good with that, $100 or $200 or $300, and yeah, okay, and you're getting this to me at whatever price they get it at. I don't know. That's what I think is going to happen, and that's going to be massive. And I think, think about a world where there's no debt, and we're paying each other off, and we're interconnected because of interoperability and the ILP, and what the W3C is doing with the ILP. Think about that. And I just think, what if we could live in that world where we're quote unquote interdependent? I think it can solve so many issues. I'm excited about a day when, I'll be able to travel someplace or travel close to someplace and be able to help people, because I have a QR code, they have a QR code. You know what I mean? I'm excited about being able to do that. And I think that's where we're headed. That's where we're headed. And so get excited for sure about being an XRP holder. The whole idea that it could be a world reserve currency is wow. Every now and then I keep thinking every now and then I'm thinking I'm good with my holdings, and then I'm like, man, I don't know, maybe I should, right? Whatever, maybe I should. Why not have an even more loftier goal than 7-8 figures? Why not even an even loftier goal? So yeah, gotta think about that for sure. Excited about the digital asset space. It's amazing. I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. If you checked out that video, please let me know. I thought it was very fascinating. I didn't even watch all of it. Great interview. A lot of good information. Imagine the possibilities, like I've always said. Imagine the possibilities, what's possible for you, being an early adopter in the digital asset space. Just imagine that. So many great digital assets out there, certainly enough for us as early investors to live the life of our dreams one day, whether that's 5 years from now or it's 10 years from now. Just remember Bitcoin, before it had its high, I think it was 8.5, maybe even 9 years before it went to its all-time high. Got to think about that, and I think you got to think about that. And for every digital asset, I think you have to think that way. All-time high. Remember Bitcoin, I think 8.5, 9 years. So just remember that. But for XRP, I do know, there's going to be some quote-unquote cash out opportunities because, again, the price just cannot be $1 or $10 or $50. In my humble opinion, it has to be in the hundreds to settle the things that need to be settled. And I'm not just talking about, the FX markets and the derivatives market and all that stuff. I'm talking about the global economic pricing and the debt and how that's going to be taken care of. So it's going to be massive. And so there'll be opportunities in the hundreds, in my humble opinion, sooner than most people think. I really believe that, sooner than most people think. I think 2019 is going to surprise some people. It may be the latter part of 2019, but I would say definitely be prepared. Be prepared. Have your exit strategy. Have know the certain portion that you're going to get rid of. Just to kind of level up the lifestyle, pay off some debt. I don't know. Those type of things. Position yourself so that you can be a little bit more than comfortable for the next 5 to 10 years. That's kind of the thing. Whatever that is for you, everybody's lifestyle is different. If you're making $50,000 a year at a job, for example, and you're in a position to now have 250 from your digital assets, you essentially have bought back 5 years of your time if you cash out in different, if you do that. If you get $250,000, technically you could free up 5 years of your time. You know, what if you could take that and now spend that $50,000 a year on lifestyle, on travel, on whatever? What if you take the first 50 to 75 of that 250,000 and you pay off some debt, so now you're debt free, you just have normal living expenses, right? So you got to kind of factor that out. Imagine the possibility of, you know, freeing up, you know, 2 or 3 years from having a job, and now you're debt free, and, you know, besides maybe a house payment, maybe, I don't know, you're debt free, and you can live a life where you're in control of your time at a lifestyle that you've been used to, whether it be a $50,000 lifestyle, $100,000 lifestyle. I will tell you this: $50,000 lifestyle where you're in control of your time is completely different than a $50,000 a year job and you're having to trade your time for dollars. That's a totally different gig, right? Totally different gig. So $50,000. Imagine $50,000 that you have in your coffers, but you don't have to go to the JLB. You can spend time with the spouse, the significant other. You can spend time with your kids because the money's there. So that's a different $50,000, right? It's a different $50,000 if you understand what I'm saying. And so, you know, that's where we are in the digital asset space. A nice diversified portfolio, in my humble opinion. Some people say no. Some people say they're just all in the one. And, you know, you have to make your own decisions and live with those decisions. Whatever your price target is for XRP, your bag is what it is. Again, I'm second guessing again mine, and you know, maybe I should look at it even more and increase my position. Don't know. Very challenging, but it's a great challenge. It's a great conversation to have with the significant other. You know, that type of deal. I saw one person said that, you know, they put aside a certain amount for the kids' education, for the kids' lifestyle going forward. I think that is awesome as well. The great thing about being able to do that is you don't have to touch it. You can just leave it and put it away. But what is that amount, you know, and, you know, that type of deal. And so when I think about that, I might have to say, well, you know, I might have to say, you know, 4 or 5 figures of XRP set aside, you know, for my kids and you know, that type of deal. So that's a good point. I got to think about that as well. So with that being said, I probably need to increase, because I do want to have a certain amount for me and my significant other, right? So me and my girl to live for the rest of our lives, right? So now is a great time, you know, to increase my size, you know, increase the bags, right? The accumulation is massive right now, 30-something cents. I think it's back down to 32 cents again. I think I checked it this morning, 32 cents again. So you gotta think about that. And so if you envision an XRP at $10 and it's 30 cents, now is that not a bad gig? Someone told me, I think Mark Phillips said on that video, get back to all-time high is like 10x or 11x from where it is now. So, you know what I mean? So, I don't know, 1,000 is back to its all-time high. You got 10 grand. You know, that type of deal. So, interesting thing. It's a great question. It's a great conversation to have, again, with your significant other, and strategize and look at it and say, this is what we're going to do, and when it does this, we're going to do this and this. Because, again, if you're an XRP holder, you can have this conversation with your wife and your significant other. You know what I mean? You can have the conversation and say, okay, this is our debt. Okay, this is what we want to, you know, tithe if you're, you know, a believer. You know, this is what we want to do. Okay, this is our current income. What if we could replace our incomes? You know, all of this is conversations you can have. And you can plan and strategize and do it now. Quite honestly, do it now. Great, you know, great conversations to have. You know, great conversations to have for sure. You know, I know me and my girlfriend, we have them. Absolutely have them, because we know, 100%. So blessed, guys. We are blessed to be in this digital asset space early. Never forget that, 100%. So I am going to end this video with this. Old money doesn't want us to win. We are in the midst of the greatest transfer of wealth in the history of man. Are you participating, or are you standing on the sidelines? Here's what I do know. The battle for you has already been fought, and the victory is yours. Go get it. I'll talk to you soon, guys. See ya. Bye.